Our text opens up with Jesus and his disciples heading to a wedding. The newly married couple must have been friends or neighbors of Jesus' family, because we are told that Jesus' mother Mary is already at the wedding feast. This feast was not like our wedding reception. In our culture, wedding receptions last for a few hours. People eat, drink, dance, and then they go home. But in the ancient Jewish culture, wedding feasts lasted for a week. During this week, there was great celebration. Food, dancing, music, and wine. They had to ensure that these provisions would last for an entire week. It was the family's job to make sure that there was enough food and wine for the celebration to continue to go. Running out of food and wine was looked at in a negative light. It made them either look like they didn't have enough money or that they were poor planners. Also, because hospitality was big in their culture, if they would have run out of food and or wine, it would make it appear that the newly married couple was shortchanging those who came out to support and celebrate their union. Because of this, I am very sure that this family made preparations for this wedding. They had attended weddings themselves, so they could estimate how much food and wine was needed for the week. The people planning the wedding feast were currently married, or maybe they were widowed, so they could search the recesses of their minds to remember how much food and wine was needed to supply their week-long celebration of love. Even if they didn't remember how much wine was needed, or maybe they feared that times had changed and their accounts would need to be adjusted, they could have asked their friends and family members who were recently married about how much food and wine to supply for the week. However, despite all the planning, preparations, and securing of provisions, verse 3 lets us know that one of their worst fears came true, that the wine ran out. How could this have happened? They made adequate plans, and yet they still ran out of wine. They did all the right things, and yet something still went wrong. They did their best to avoid a catastrophe, and yet a catastrophe shows up right on their doorsteps. Could this have been an error in planning? Could this have been due to a larger than expected crash? Maybe there was a disease which affected the production of wine. Regardless of the reason, they were still left with no wine during their wedding feast. And to be honest, it doesn't matter how the problem came about. Whether it's their fault or external factors, the truth is they don't have wine when people are expecting them to have wine. Now, in this text, this is a real problem of real wine, but to make it real for us, since we're not at the wedding feast, we will look at wine in a symbolic sense. This symbolic sense of wine in this story represents the essence of the event. It represents the vitality and vigor of the party. Wine is there to keep people dancing and celebrating in joyous spirits. A rabbi said about this scene, he said that the wine represents the joy. So if we push for an alternative title for this sermon, it would be, what do you do when your joy runs out? What do you do when your happiness runs out? What do you do when your peace runs out? What do you do when the love runs out?
All right.
This text seems to suggest that in life it is possible or sometimes inevitable to run out of wine. No matter how well we prepare, no matter how well we prepare, at some point in this party celebration called life, we will run out of wine. Text reminds us that our wine seems to run out at the wrong time. Now, see, it would have been a good thing if the wine ran out on day 7 because the party was over, but this text lets us know that the wine runs out in the middle of the party. It's good when wine runs out when something's over, but it's a problem when you need something and you don't have it. This text lets us know that it can be hard to explain why you've run out of wine. You've done a good job planning and preparing. You've done a good job of going to the right schools. You've lived in the right neighborhood. You've worked the right jobs. You've made the right friends. You've done everything you're supposed to do, but yet it still seems like you've run out of wine. You've done everything. You've read all the self-help books. You consulted all the friends. You listened to all the motivational speakers. You exercised. You worked out. You did everything you were supposed to do, and you deserve a pat on the back, but still, you don't know how you run out of wine. You tried to protect from this moment. You protected your heart. You protected your life. You've done everything you could do, but yet you are still sitting there wondering how you run out of wine. And just like in this story, it can be embarrassing to tell people that you've run out of wine. In this text, it was expected that they were to have wine. As we stated before, if there was no wine, there was going to be a problem. So if people knew that there was no wine, then people would be upset. None of us like to be embarrassed. None of us want to tell everybody our faults and failures. We don't look forward to telling people that we're broken. We don't want to tell people that the thing that they said we should be over, that we're still struggling with that life. They said you should get over that loss, you should get over that job, you should get over that relationship, you should get over that friendship, you should be over that person's death right now, but yet you're still
My God,
hurt.
help us.
And it can be embarrassing to tell people that I'm still struggling
My God.
with that thing that you expect me to not be still struggling. That is hard to tell you that I'm doing the things that are supposed to be right, but yet when I go home at night, I still wonder why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I am where I am. It's embarrassing to tell people that the things that they think you have, that you wonder why you still have. So the question we want to deal with today is, what do you do when your wine runs out? Well, another way to put this is, what do you do when you run out of what people expect you to have? What happens when you run out of what you expect you to have? Well, before we get into that, the grace found in this text is that Jesus can give you your wine back. If you don't take anything away, just know that Jesus can give you
Come
your
on,
wine
sir.
back. No matter how lost you think your joy is, no matter how lost you think your peace of mind is, no matter how lost you think your sanity is, no matter how crazy you think the situation is, you should leave here with your head held high because we serve a God who can give you your wine back. I know this because we serve a God of restoration, and this is what God spoke to the prophets. God let them know even when they were in exile that God always had a plan to restore them to where they were.
Right.
That no matter how lost you feel, God has a plan and a purpose for you. And if you're not where God wants you to be, God will restore you to where you should be. And many of us in here today can testify to that point. We can testify to the fact that we weren't where we should be emotionally, mentally, or in life, but God had a way of bringing us to where we should be. And sometimes we don't know how, or we don't know why God did it. But when we look back over our lives, we look and we see that God has restored us that we shouldn't be. And we know that it wasn't for any goodness of our own. Because the truth be told, if we really look at our lives, we will see that we have not deserved the grace and mercy of God. But yet when we look up, God puts us in a place that we can't even deserve.
Thank you, Jesus.
We also serve a God of transformation. Hallelujah. We know that even if God's not going to restore it, God will take what we have and transform it. God will take what we have and make it to what we want to be. We also serve a God of exaltation and elevation, meaning that when God does whatever God's going to do in your life,
He's going to bring it up.
God's going to do it better than it was before. That's why the word says your latter will be better than the former, meaning that what's going to happen right now is going to be better than what you had before. See, the God we serve doesn't give us raggedy restoration and time transformation. The God we serve doesn't do things mediocre, but the God we serve does things with excellence. So what that means is have high expectations for what God's going to do for you. See, if God says that God is going to do something for you, then you better believe that when God does it, it's going to be better than what you had before. When God returns your joy, it's going to be better than the joy you had before. See, when God returns your peace, it's going to be better than what you had before. Come here, Job. What happened with Job? Job lost what Job had. And God restored him. God elevator needs
Yes,
to
sir.
be more than what he had before. And I don't know who I'm in here talking to today. And I don't know what you're going through here today, but I'm here to let you know right now that God's going to do better than what you had before. Does anybody believe that in you right now? Does anybody believe that God has more for you? Amen. You can stand on the promise to know that when God sees you through, it's going to be better than what you had before.
Amen.
So you can sit in expectancy to know that
Yes,
the
sir.
better is going to be greater than what you've ever had in your life. Amen. Amen. So let's get to the meat of this text. So what do we do when the wine runs out? What are we going to do when the wine runs out? The first thing we need to do, as the text shows us, is that we have to make sure that Jesus is invited. It would have been a shame to not have invited Jesus to this wedding. Out of all the people in Jerusalem, surrounding areas, matter of fact, the whole world, who could fix this problem of running out of wine was Jesus. It would have been a tragedy if Jesus wasn't there to fix the problem. They had an immediate problem. They ran out of wine. Couldn't go to the liquor store to get any more. They needed the problems to be fixed immediately. And it would have been a shame if the only person in the world who could fix this problem wasn't there. It would have been equally tragic if Jesus received a limited invitation. We don't know when the wine ran out exactly, but what if they told Jesus to come at the end of the party and they ran out in the middle? Since we never know when the wine is going to run out, we have to take some precautionary measures. And as Christians, God has equipped us with the best precautionary measure out there, which is to get Jesus involved in our situation before we start.
Amen.
We have to get Jesus involved before things go wrong, before we face problems, before we run out of our joy, before we run out of our peace. We need to make sure that Jesus is there beforehand. This would be like not having car insurance and then getting into a car accident, but trying to get insurance after the accident. If you tried to do this, drove without any insurance and you got into a car accident, and you said, oh my God, I need to sign up for insurance, Geico, anybody, somebody, I don't know, in general, I don't know, somebody, please help me. And you try to file a claim, and you put a claim in, and best is be denied. At worst, you'll probably be arrested for claiming fraud. And I believe as Christians, sometimes we're guilty of fraudulent Christianity when we claim Jesus after our death.
My God.
We all been there. We all been guilty of fraudulent Christianity when we get into a mess and then we, God, please. Oh, God, if you do this. Oh, I'm never going to do that again. Oh, God, please. Please. How many people prayed that prayer before? Don't raise your hand. Don't tell on yourself. Amen. We looking good in here. Don't tell on yourself. But I'm sure we've all been there. But the thing is, we need to get Jesus involved before we make situations. And why do we say this? Because this text lets us know that when you invite Jesus to the party, Jesus always shows up.
Amen.
See, this text doesn't tell us when Jesus shows up, what day Jesus shows up, what time Jesus shows up, but we do know one thing. He showed up right on time. Jesus shows up when the wine ran out. We don't know when or how Jesus showed up. We don't know how long it took him to get there, but we do know this, that when he showed up, it was just in time to work a miracle. See, when we get Jesus involved in our situations, we always have the assurance to know that Jesus will poke his head out right on time. Whenever you have something you're facing, have faith to know that Jesus will always show up right on time. And not only will Jesus show up on time, but Jesus never shows up empty-handed. Now, in this text, it doesn't tell us that Jesus brought a present, but we know that his hands were never empty because we understand that in Jesus' hands was the power to do whatever was needed that day. If someone was at the wedding feast choking on a piece of chicken, Jesus could have touched them and healed them. If someone was there was sad saying that I'm a bridesmaid and never a bride and I'll never get married, Jesus could have spoke a word to fix the situation. All I'm saying is when Jesus shows up, Jesus has enough in his hands to fix whatever your situation is. So when Jesus is involved, Jesus understands what it is you're facing and what it is you're going through. And when Jesus shows up, Jesus has the right word, the right solution, the right fix for your situation. The next thing is don't tell everybody you ran out of wine. This text doesn't tell us how Mary found out the wine ran out. From every indication in this text, we can assume that she was a close member of the family. Somebody told her confidentially of this problem because, as we established before, this is a very dire problem. This is an embarrassing problem. It will shut the party down. So somebody tells Mary in privacy. They trust her enough to tell her that the wine ran out. We get in trouble sometimes because we do the opposite. Instead of only telling a select few people of our problem, we sometimes like to tell everybody. We like to tell everybody that we're struggling. We like telling the whole world, and now with social media, we tell the whole social media, we tell everybody our problems. Sometimes we get caught up in this victim mentality. Sometimes we just want sympathy from anybody and everybody. Sometimes we get defeated with the, woe is me, I'm so sad, life is so abusive, everything's just going wrong, why me? And sometimes we love that sympathy. Now, there are many reasons why people might have that pathology, but the truth is there are some victim mentalities. But the problem is that we have not been called to be victims, but God has called us to be victims. See, God doesn't want us stuck in this mentality of looking for sympathy from everybody, but the truth is not everybody can fix or handle the problem. See, somebody had to trust Mary because some people would have gossiped this information. It would have been a game like telephone. As soon as somebody said they ran out of wine, they whispered, no, they ran out of wine. They don't want wine again. You want something more to drink? Let me go over there around with you. Not everybody can be trusted with information, but somebody trusted Mary with this information. Now, this gives us insight about the type of people we can tell. It gives us 4 traits. The first thing is that Mary seemed to be trustworthy. That means when you're going through, you have to find somebody that you can trust with your situation. You have to find somebody that is trustworthy to hold your situation, who has integrity, enough integrity to not tell your business. It seems that Mary also understood the magnitude of the situation. Mary was married to Joseph, so she had to go through a wedding. She's been in this culture. She knows that this is a big problem, and she respected that the issue that they had was a big issue. See, sometimes we tell our stuff to people, but they don't really know what we're going through. And if they don't directly know, they don't take the time to understand. So to them, what's golden and sacred to you is just junk. So they just spread it around. They don't cherish what you have. And we also need someone who is action-oriented. As we read in the text, Mary just doesn't hold on to this information, but she goes and does something with it. She goes to Jesus with it.
Amen.
See, sometimes we need people in our lives who are going to be action-oriented, not just to hold on to the information, but to say, you know what, I know you're going through, so just let me pray with you. Let me just talk to you. Do you need a friend? Do you need an ear? Do you need somebody to listen to you? Do you need to go to counseling? What do you need? Let me be something for you. Let's not just sit here and wallow, but let's do some work together. Let's pray together. Let's fast together. Let's go to church together. Let's sing together. Let's pray together. Let's read some scriptures together. Let me text you some inspirational stuff. Let me be there for you. Someone who is looking to help you get out of the mess that you're in. Now, I did say there was 4, and the next thing is the third point, which is learn the difference between those who know of Jesus and those who know Jesus. Amen. Well, since this was a family function, we are sure that everyone in the room knows of Jesus. You grew up around him. they know of Jesus. But there was only one person in this room named Mary who knows Jesus. Everyone in the party knew Jesus as the son of Mary and Joseph, but Mary knew Jesus as the Son of God. Everyone in the room knows that Jesus is 30 years old, but one person in the room knows that Jesus is from eternal to eternal and has been here since before they were born. Everyone in the room knew Jesus' occupation was a carpenter, but Mary knew that Jesus' occupation was a savior. Everyone in the room thought that Jesus was following his father's footsteps, but Mary knew that Jesus was following in his heavenly father's footsteps. Come here, what am I saying? Everyone may know who this Jesus is, but Mary was the only one who knew what Jesus was and what he was capable of. See, she knew this not just because he was her son, but she knew this because over 30 years ago, God had worked a miracle in her life. God had appeared to her, who was a young, broke virgin, to tell her that she would be the vessel that God would use to carry the Son of God. This woman knew that it was through her body that God decided to bring the Savior in this world. So perhaps she leaned on the fact that if God was strong enough to use Jesus for this, that this one would be the one to fix the problem. See, when you have an encounter with Jesus, you know what God can do and you know what God is capable of doing. What does that mean? That means you already know what God has done for you, because when you look at your life, you can count all the times that God has made a way, that God has opened the door, that God has brought you out of trouble, that God has healed your body, that God has kept your friendships, that God has kept your sanity. But it also lets us know that we have enough faith to lean on things we don't even know God can do yet. Meaning that she didn't never see Jesus do a miracle because this was his first miracle. But yet she knew that she had enough faith that if God was going to do it like that, then certainly he can fix this problem at this way. Meaning that God is able to do even things we don't expect. I can put this in a story. There's a story about us, since Father's Day, I can give you a story about a father and a daughter. The father was a rich businessman, and he always made time to go to his daughter's birthday party. He was busy, so he always made sure he came to her school or her birthday, set up, he was there, did everything. He celebrated with her classmates, just loved it. It was one year, he really wanted to set up as his custom was, but his job, they really needed him to go out of town. He tried to fight, he tried to plead, beg, please don't send me. Notice my daughter's birthday, I can't miss it, she just looks forward to it. This is really quality time I can spend with her. They said, sorry, we have this acquisition, go. So he lets his daughter know that, honey, I'm not going to be there for your birthday. I know I come every year. I'm so sorry, but they need me to go. The daughter's devastated. She's sad. She goes to school. Day just isn't the same. Starts off, she's sad. She's walking around the classroom. Father, unbeknownst to the daughter, just really was pressed in his spirit. He's like, look, I have to go to this party. So he calls the teacher. He's like, look, I'm going to just hop on the plane. I know this is crazy. I'm just going to hop in. I just want to set up this party, and I just need to go. But I need to do something. I know I'm not going to be there, but just allow me to set up. She said, good. They have recess. Just try to sneak in, unbeknownst, set up, and just go. So the father makes arrangements. He makes calls. He gets supplies. He has stuff brought to the school. And he gets there. He comes. He rushes. He sets up, and then he leaves. Recess is over. Class comes in. Everybody's happy for playing. The girl is still sad. The kids walk in, they look, and the whole classroom set up at the party. Balloons, cups, cake, everything. Pizza. Kids are excited. But the girl gets really, really excited. So the girl looks at the teacher and she says, my daddy was here. And the teacher looks at her and she's like, well, how do you know your dad is here? She's like, well, when I walked in, I smelled his cologne. Teacher said, well, it could have been anybody. What do you mean you smelled his cologne? That's a generic cologne. She's like, well, also, I know my daddy's tendencies.
Ooh, come on, sir.
I know he's a lefty, so the way he sets up his stuff, it looks a certain way. But most importantly, he's always been doing my parties for
All
me.
right.
So I know how his details are, and I know his attention to detail. See, what am I trying to say here? Is see, when you know your Heavenly Father, you know what God is capable of.
My.
You don't need to know what God can do.
My.
You don't need to know how God is going to work it out. But since you know God is with you, you know when God is around, situation. You don't need to know that God is going to show up to have the expectation that God was already in your situation. You don't need to see God actually in the room to know that God was already there.
Right.
You don't need to see God actively in your situation to know that God was already there. Why? Because you know God's work already.
All right,
You know
all right.
God's situation. You know what God smells like. You know what God
Yes,
feels
sir.
like. You know how God moves. You know how God works things out. And when you look at the situation, you can look at the details of it, and you will see that this truly came from the hand of the Lord. This wasn't any goodness of my own.
My
This wasn't
God.
the work of my friends. This wasn't the work of any goodness of my own, but this was the work of God.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And the final point I'm going to give you, and I'm going to go to my seat, I'm still feeling tired, is just to trust God to turn it. Trust God to turn it. So Mary tells servants, do what he tells you to do. They listen to this man, they don't know because he hasn't worked a miracle. So they take his word, they fill up the water pots. Then Jesus tells them to do something I don't know many of us can do. Fill this cup, take it to the master of the ceremony. They don't know what Jesus can do. These servants don't know Jesus. They don't know anything about Jesus. But Jesus tells them to fill this water and then serve it to the head of the party. So the thing that always bugs me about this text is when did the water turn into wine? Was it in the pot? Was it in the ladle? Was it in the cup? Or was it in his mouth? Was it in the pot? Was it in the ladle? Was it in the cup? Or was it in his mouth? Come on now. Now these servants don't know anything, but all they know is this. They put water in a pot. And the man tells them to take some water out, to put it in a cup, to walk over to the head of the party, and to give him a cup of what they think is water. Jesus doesn't tell them that he's going to turn this into wine. He just tells them, serve him this water. They were there. They poured the water. They know it's water. Jesus tells them to take this water, to put it in a cup, to walk it over to somebody who is expecting wine. There's water in the pot. Everyone is expecting wine. They know that it's water, but they have to walk it over and hope that at some point between the pot and his mouth that it turns to wine. Now, what type of faith do you have to have?
My God.
Something that you know is
Yes,
water.
sir.
So put it in a cup.
Yes,
So
sir.
walk it over to somebody
Yeah.
who's expecting wine.
Yeah.
Serve that wine.
My God.
Truth is, we don't know when that thing turns. And I can't tell you if it turned in the pot,
My
in
God.
the ladle, if it turned while they were walking, or if it turned in his mouth. I don't know if it still was water that just tasted like wine. I don't know if it actually was wine. But the thing I can tell you today is this, that at some point,
My yes. Yes, yes.
between his mouth, God turned it. So what are you trying to say, people? I don't know when God is going to turn this situation.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
And I can't tell you.
Hallelujah.
Give you your joy back. I can't promise you when God is going to give you your peace back. But I can testify to this. At some point,
At some point.
between the pot
Yeah.
and in the lamb, and in the cup,
Yeah.
and in his mouth,
Yeah.
the person at the end is going to taste wine. So all I'm telling you is this. Keep on serving God.
Hallelujah.
Got no joy.
Yes, sir.
Keep on serving
Yes,
God.
sir. Yes, sir.
No joy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No joy. Keep walking in
Hallelujah.
Give me the day that the Lord
Yeah, Lord. Yeah, Lord.
God. I'm gonna do it again. Oh, Jesus, hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Preach. Preach.
Y'all been thinking that God is gonna do it.
My God.
Turn it all around. So give God praise. But God just
My. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
the way for it to turn. You can celebrate right now. You don't have to
My.
do to know that God is gonna do it now. I don't need to see that thing turn to wine to know that God is already turning it into wine.